Mortgage brokers and loan originators, listen up. I want you to fast forward 2 years from today and think about this. What if real estate agents were only 20% of your referrals? Could you survive? Are you doing the right things today to put yourself in a position where you are less dependent on realtor referrals? And real estate agents, I have a question for you. What if in 2 years you had less control of the home buyer, but your lender had all of the control? What does your business look like, and what should you be doing today to make sure you are prepared for what the future could look like? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC
John Coleman.
Yo, what's poppin'?
Well, first and foremost, it is hot as shit in the studio today.
Welcome to 2025.
Welcome to 2025. Here's the deal. So this is our first episode that we are recording in the new year. It's not the first episode that we released because you and I worked really hard leading up through the holidays to make sure we recorded enough material that we could continue to drop every Tuesday, every Friday, like we've been doing for the past 5 years. But for whatever reason, today in the office, the landlord has the freaking heat turned up that I think it's hotter in here today than it is like July.
It's very hot
in Orlando, right?
Shout out Nelly.
Yeah, how was your break?
Too short.
Was it?
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories as far as like AI and stuff. I'm like, yeah, we're all fucked. So good luck with
fucked in a good way?
Like bad, horrible. There's no coming back. Now I fully understand. Like, hey, AI is going to be worse than nuclear war. Like I understand it now. So like, yeah.
Are we going to put in like stopgaps or guardrails?
It's too late. The genie's already out of the bottle because there are no laws to regulate AI. It's already been let out in the wild. The genie's out, but Dustin.
Okay, so then what do guys like you and I do? What does the audience do, John?
Keep your head in the fucking sand, just like the ostriches you are, and keep going to work and keep hypothesizing and keep sticking to your New Year's resolution plans that you'll drop before February 14th.
Okay, do you have a time frame for us?
2030.
2030.
Yeah, it's right.
Okay, so those that tune in hear me say all the time, like we are using this platform in this show to shape the future of the mortgage industry, to create content for future home buyers so they too can create general wealth through home ownership. We are teaching the shit they don't teach in school.
Right.
We say we have our eye on 2030, not 2010.
Not 2030.
You're telling me 2030, I don't have to work anymore?
No, a lot of people will be out of jobs, but those are the people I want out of jobs, like the people that work at Chipotle who keep fucking up my order. You know, people like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy that you said what you said.
Okay.
Right? Because today's episode came from a conversation I had with a colleague of mine, which, by the way, shout out to Nick Gallagher.
Shout out Nick Gallagher.
Nick is a 20-year mortgage professional. He's a hell of a sales leader. He's one of the SVPs over at Lower. And quite honestly, he was like my first friend. You know how you start a new job? You need that first friend. Right. I'm like, where's my first friend? Who can I trust? Who's my ride or die?
Okay.
It was pretty evident within like the first 6 or 8 weeks. Hey, that's my dude.
Nice.
So Nick and I have an opportunity to talk. We probably don't talk enough, but we at least talk weekly. And we were talking about what keeps Nick up at night as a mortgage leader.
Nick at night.
Oh, I like how you did that. And what keeps Nick at night is what he thinks will be a complete reversal in the roles of loan originators or mortgage brokers in the real estate community.
Really?
And he's talking to his originators, which, I mean, you got to think, Nick manages billions of dollars of volume, right? Multiple branches, branch managers, hundreds of loan originators throughout the country. And he's like, he goes, as blasphemous as this may sound, he's like, I'm telling my loan officers right now not to not call on realtors, because that is our bread and butter. They are our number one and number two client if you're a mortgage broker or a loan originator, and they have been for decades. But he's like, I'm telling them, you got to do something to where you're getting referred by people outside of real estate professionals. Okay, it could be going after the medical community because you have a great doctor loan. It could be working your past client database because you are a 20-year veteran and you have a massive amounts of clients that have children who are becoming adults, who are looking to downsize, looking to upgrade, they're looking to refinance eventually once rates ever get down to where they're supposed to be going. And a lot of originators don't do that well enough. It could be by creating content. It could be, you and I did an episode on this where we talked about the hybrid originator, right? The hybrid originator is every reason why I chose the employer that I chose. It's because this is where we are marching. We have this vision that we can have residential, retail, local originators in the market doing their thing, working their past client database, developing referral relationships with other professionals within their community, but also working for a company that is creating content on a national level, that has web presence on a national level, who's generating home buyer interest on a national level. And that company can then feed the branches with home buyer leads that can then be referred out to realtors and can be worked by those originators. And we can, in a way, take online leads, give them to offline originators, and create that hybrid. So it's crazy what you're saying about AI and in 2030, because it totally correlates with Nick and I's conversation that we were just having as two colleagues, and it's every reason why we're going to do today's episode as is.
Right.
Yeah. You want to know how my break was, though, before we get started? You don't care. Nobody cares.
But go ahead. I mean, tell the people about Vermont. You got some maple syrup. What happened?
I did go to Vermont, John. And no, this is really cool. My wife and I went to Vermont during the break. We literally left on the 27th, but got back on the 31st.
What airline?
Delta.
Good job.
Because I use points. Because I work in the mortgage industry.
Class,
so
business select?
No. Coach on the way up. And I was able to leverage a Chris Voss, never split the difference, tactic. And I was able to get a free upgrade to comfort on the way back.
Just you, though, not the wife.
And the wife. Yeah, we both got to go, but I couldn't get first class.
Okay.
So I asked for first class, and she's like, sir, I can't do that, especially because I booked on miles. I'm like, well, if you can't give me first class, could you at least give me comfort?
Like, sir, I can
and she goes, I can do that.
There you go.
I was like, sweet. Yeah, free upgrade. Yeah. There we go. And in comfort, they still give you free drinks. That's all I really wanted was a free drink. Okay, so no, nonetheless, we go to Vermont. Yes, we love the mountains. Yes, we love outdoors. Yes, we love cold weather because we live in Florida, so we don't get it often. I'm sure if I had to grow up and live in cold weather my whole life, I'd probably despise it like my father-in-law and like my father. But my wife and I both were, for the most part, raised in Central Florida, so all we know is hot, muggy, gross. We love to get away to fresh air, mountains, and maybe even some snow, which we got when we were in Vermont. We were in Stowe. But here's what's really cool. We stayed at the Trapp Family Lodge. I want to give a shout out to the Trapp Family Lodge in Stowe, Vermont. So the Trapp family, or the Von Trapp family, or Von Trapp family, Sound of Music, right? The Sound of Music is a extremely popular movie. It's also a Broadway play. The story is still alive, and the hills are still alive, right? To the Sound of Music. We stayed at that family lodge. How cool was that? Like there ended up being 10 Von Trapp kids. These were all the singers that traveled the country. They fled Austria during World War II because Hitler had come in. And long story short, we sat at the bar and hung out with one of the Von Trapps.
Really?
Yeah, shout out to Sam. Sam Von Trapp is the son of the youngest and the only still left living, Von Trapp. And we got to be there. We stayed at their lodge. It was such a cool experience. I went snowboarding one day. Had an epic time at the Stowe Mountain Resort, whatever they call it. And I did do a snowshoeing excursion to a sugar mill, which is where they make maple syrup. So yes, John, that was probably the highlight. And then other than that, I worked way more than I wanted and way more than I told people I was willing to work
by design
during that time frame.
Christmas has become so commercialized that it doesn't even feel like the holiday spirit no matter where you go.
You think so?
I know so.
That's how you experience it?
By design. Did you put up a Christmas tree?
My house has 5 Christmas trees.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Fucking wrong. Are they still up now? Is it still up now?
No, we took it all down.
Oh my God. Bless your heart, Dustin.
Yeah. Not me.
My shit is staying up until March.
Okay, good for you.
July.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So my wife has gone all in on Christmas. We had a tree in the bedroom.
Real tree or fake?
No, all fake.
Okay.
This year. We had a tree in the bedroom, and that's all decorated with White House ornaments. We had a tree in the family room, and that's like all of the ornaments that were either given to our children or made by our children throughout the years. And my kids are now teenagers, right? We had a tree in the front room that was all UCF, black and gold or UCF Knights.
Yeah.
And then, so how many is that? That's 3.
Yeah.
And then my daughter had her tree in her bedroom, which was all Taylor Swift themed. So we had 4 trees. I lied. I said 5. It was 4. Yep. And by the way, that was never by design, and that wasn't growing up. Here's what happens. When one tree starts to like falter or break.
Throw it away and never buy another one.
My wife finds a way to actually go buy a new one, but then make that one still usable. So that's how she's collected all of these trees over the years.
That's a very intrinsic way of saying she's a level 1 hoarder, Dustin.
She's not a hoarder.
Wow.
She is, but she's not a waster. You don't waste anything.
Bro, no, throw it out and buy a new one.
No, like I legit have a rule. I got, let's say, 3 new shirts for Christmas as gifts. I took 3 shirts out of my closet. Yep. So 3 new came in, 3 old went out, and they went to Salvation Army or to Hope or
Bless your heart.
one of the other places where we can give to the less fortunate.
End up on a beach littering the planet in a third world country. I hope you know that. They put trackers on that shit.
You know what? I sleep good at night, John. And you know it's all about me, homie. It is all about me.
Okay, but before we get started,
Mr. Altruism.
Why don't you get into today's sponsors?
Yeah, we need to get into today's episode, right? But you and I have a lot of catching up to do. By the way, Happy New Year, everybody, and I hope you had a great holiday season.
I don't give a shit about your New Year or
I do care. I like people.
I get over under how many people stick to their New Year's resolutions.
We're not doing a show on that, John, but you want to talk about it?
No, because we need to get into today's sponsors.
Yeah, no, I do want to give a shout out to. So today's sponsor is MortgageCon. MortgageCon is a mortgage conference specifically for mortgage brokers and loan originators throughout the country. It is, to me, the hottest conference for the first half of 2025. It's going to be in Orlando, Florida. It's at Universal Orlando Resort. The dates are February 4th through 7th. The website is mortgagecon2025.com. There is still time to register. And this event, it's a red carpet event. It is literally at Universal Studios Orlando. Speaking there, not only will John and I be there participating, we'll be podcasting from the trade show floor. I'm going to be speaking. Barry Habib's going to be speaking. Kyle Draper's going to be speaking. Desmond Smith, the Chief Growth Officer at United Wholesale Mortgage, will be speaking. And our dude, Jonathan Haddad with AIM, is also going to be speaking. Now, we are amongst probably a dozen speakers that if you want to come and network with true pros of pros, right? The future of mortgage lending is going to be at this event. And you want to have conversations about what does 2027, 2030 look like? How is AI going to disrupt? What does DO mean that there's a fear that if all of my business is coming from realtors, I may need to flip the script over the next 2 years and have realtors be less than 50% of my business? Those are the types of conversations that you talk about in the hallways, at the dinner events. And those are also the types of topics that are covered by some of these speakers. So check it out, MortgageCon 2025, February 4th through 7th, Orlando, Florida. I hope to see you there.
Nice. Good job.
All right. Was that fast enough for you?
You're getting much better. It only took us 5 years, but, progress shall be made.
There we go. So let's jump into today's episode. I think I teased it with like, hey, mortgage brokers and loan originators, listen up. And I want you to really take a deep breath and take a step back. And I want you to consider what your work world would look like if real estate agents only made up 20% of the business that you funded.
What's the catalyst for this new way of thinking? Because like 9 months ago, 10 months ago, 12 months ago, the hottest topic was like, you need to be networking with realtors all damn day.
Well, it's interesting, John. None of us have a crystal ball. And I think we all should know that. Right? If we had a crystal ball, we wouldn't be doing a freaking podcast.
Right.
We would be multi-billionaires.
Playing Elden Ring right now at home.
That's what John would be doing. Me, I'd probably be, hiking, diving, snowboarding, doing something extreme. And it would be staying somewhere fancy and eating super fancy, healthy food. Okay. So no one truly knows. But you can follow patterns, you can study trends, and you can also forecast. And I think that's what any good business operator does. So if you are a solopreneur, 100% commission salesperson, whether you're real estate or whether you're mortgage origination, like you do work for you, LLC, and you should be projecting forward. You should be doing your own SWOT analysis, right? Strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Well, what's a threat to your business? Well, a threat to your business would be what would happen if realtors in just 2 years did not have the same control over the home buyer as they do today. Well, if that's a main source of your business and the main source of your business loses their power, well, then your client carries way less value to you in just 2 years than they do today. Now, we still have to serve the real estate community. It still will be 20, 30% of your business, but it might not be 70 or 80% of your business. And I think that's where, there's the double-edged sword, or the other side of the coin, is just in that thought process. Now, what if my buddy Nick is just laying in bed and he's paranoid, and none of this comes to fruition? The good news is, an originator who listens to this episode, who takes action, who heeds our advice, you know what would happen for them?
They would be in a good spot regardless of the outcome.
They would be in a great spot regardless of the outcome, because they prepared for worst case scenario. If worst case scenario never came about, they just doubled their business.
Well, what happened?
And they diversified.
Is this like the NAR settlement lawsuit? Is it like new litigation coming in that's actually coming like downhill, and now we're actually seeing it?
NAR is a part of it.
Okay.
NAR is 100% a part of it. The second part is going to be data analytics and machine learning and artificial intelligence.
My favorite.
Yeah, so think about this. And I've talked about this on other episodes, and I read it in a book. And I wish I could remember what book I read it in, but I think it was, who's the guy that wrote Moneyball? He also wrote, I'm trying to think if I actually have the book sitting right here with us. He also wrote The Big Short, Michael Lewis. It may have been in a Michael Lewis book that I read a couple years back. But a couple years ago, big retailers like Target, think about this. You, me, our wives, our friends' wives shop at Target. Hopefully. Not Walmart, but Target.
Home Depot.
So they shop at Target. And a lot of times they have the Target credit card because they get discounts. Or they have it's not a frequent flyer card, but some kind of a scan this.
Customer rewards program.
There we go, type card. Target already has the data on billions of transactions, millions of customers. Target has the ability to know that a woman is pregnant before she even has peed on the stick from the box to see the 2 pink lines. Like, they have that data because they can go back and study the women that ended up becoming pregnant and now buying all the things that a pregnant woman would buy, and then eventually 9 months later, all the things a new mom would buy. They can go back and say, well, what was her shopping like the first 6 weeks, or the 6 weeks leading up to their shopping patterns changing? And then all of a sudden they can study those patterns, and with probably a 70 to 80% probability, they actually can predict, based on someone's shopping habits changing because of internal changes that are not yet known to the conscious mind, that so-and-so is pregnant. So they start feeding things into their news feed, into their mailbox, into their email, that basically say, my predictive analytics say there's a 70% probability that you are pregnant right now. Let me be the first person to start giving you the coupons and the sales and the advertisements that speak to that. Okay, so if that's already been going on, and we've been talking AI and machine learning hardcore now for 2 years, going on 3. Right? Like, nobody was talking about NVIDIA stock 3 years ago. No, people, ChatGPT and Claude AI weren't like, and they still aren't like everyday topics, but they will be. So just imagine what happens to our industry when, by the way, Chase, Wells Fargo, 2 of the top banks, right? Let's pick some of the top 401k providers, whether it's Morgan Stanley or whether it's Transamerica. Let's look at some of the top mortgage servicers in the industry, whether it's AmeriHome or Planet Home Lending. Okay, these companies have all the data, and AI is going to make it that much easier for them to mine the data, that much easier for them to utilize predictive analytics, and all of a sudden they know that Dan and Debbie are going to be putting their house on the market and buying a new house before Dan and Debbie have even told their kids.
Right.
Right? Because they're using all of this freakishly fast and freakishly accurate data, and they own all the data. Right? AmeriHome owns that data. Planet owns that data. Chase, Wells Fargo, they own that data. Well, that means a home buyer may be introduced to a real estate agent so early in the game that they never make it to an open house. They never make it online. They never get a chance to ask their neighbor who they used when they sold their house. So all of a sudden, if I'm a lender and real estate agents are my number one and number two resource or source of business, what happens if that source of business dries up? That I have to myself be diversified. So that means I have to be, and this is my assessment, this is very much, if you follow my career and my career path and my career choices, I'm making a lot of my choices based on 2030, right? Like, who's going to be big enough? Who's raised enough money from the right people so that we are ahead of the curve, so we are building out the right technology, right? Like, I would hope my mortgage broker friends, they got Rocket on their side and they got UWM on their side. I can promise you this, Rocket and UWM are investing in all the right technologies. And Rocket and UWM, as long as they need mortgage brokers to bring them to business, they will make sure that those brokers are getting access to some of this. But I also know that's what the big national lenders are doing, right? That's what the cross-country mortgages are doing. It's what the guaranteed rates are doing. More than likely, it's what New American's doing. I know 100% it's what we're doing at Lower, right? 100%. I know that this is where we're taking things. I'm pretty sure if I talked to my buddy Greg Scheer over at NFM, they probably have some play going on. And then there's players that we haven't heard of because they've been huge servicers, AKA shout out to Doug Long, Tom Reber, and the crew over at Planet Home. It's not going to shock me if Planet Home is going to fast forward in 2 or 3 years and all of a sudden now they're a national player when it comes to originations. Planet Home has never been a national player, at least in my recollection, a national player when it comes to originations. You fast forward 2 or 3 years, that they have all the data and they have the ability to get to the consumer before the consumer even knows that they're going to be looking to put their home on the market. Man, that's a whole different world that we could be living in.
Well, when I hear that, could there be an instance where like companies like just have a massive merger to where UWM, for example, has like a realtor division where like they have like realtors working for them, they have like services, like everything is done in-house, soup to nuts, from like loan origination into realtors, because it seems like
yes. Look at what Veterans United is doing right now. So like we have realtors. You and I live in the Orlando MSA, right? Central Florida. And dude, our market's no different than the rest of the country. There's not that many homes for sale, and there's not that many transactions going on. So there are realtor friends of mine who are 10, 15-year veterans who are consistently in the top 2, 3, 4% in their profession in terms of sales. And one literally said to me, I'm doing things today for a business that I never thought I'd have to do. Another one said to me, I've just gone back to the basics and it's working. Stuff that I did 10, 15 years ago to get my business off the ground, I've had to go and actually start deploying those tactics and strategies. So, okay, cool. We all know what back to the basics means. And if we need to do an episode on it, we will. Just let us know. Maybe hit me up on LinkedIn and let me know, hey, Dio, I think it'd be great to do a back to the basics. But I think we've covered that a lot over the past 4 or 5 years. But the one thing that this agent told me they're doing, they're like, I'm even willing to take referrals, whether the referrals coming in from a relocation company, whether it's coming in from a mortgage company like Veterans United, or whether it's coming in from another type of, because when a realtor takes in a referral, they typically make less commission. And some of the better realtors that I personally know who are highly successful, the types of people I would refer my own family to, they're like, bro, they're almost embarrassed to admit it. I'm like, dude, don't be embarrassed. We all got to do what we got to do. So, yes, to answer your question, and I'm pretty confident Rocket, it may have gotten them in some heat with the CFPB, but Rocket already has some kind of a program where they can refer their clients to real estate agents. And I'm pretty confident UWM has something similar. And I'm going to tell you straight up, like, yes, that's what we're doing at Lower. Like, that's why we hired in Adam Weiner shout out to Adam, by the way, who helped build Redfin for like 13 years.
Right.
He helped build and run Redfin, one of the top real estate brokerages, one of the best content creators, one of the best websites for the consumer to go to. There's a reason why we brought him into a mortgage company. Now, don't get me wrong. Adam's built a mortgage company before. He did that when he was at Redfin. And then he even acquired a mortgage company while he was at Redfin. But yes, like this very much could be the future, especially when you look at what some of the bigger players are already starting to do.
So now what's going to happen, fast forward even longer, this sounds like a monopoly. There's going to be like 3 large corporations, just like telecommunications, who own and run everything. Because aren't all the other companies going to gobble? Hearing what you're saying, it sounds like there's a very slim chance for like the mom and pop brokerages and loan places out there to survive once all they can't compete.
So 2 thoughts on that. Okay, first, I'm going to start with this. It's a Mark Twain quote. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Okay, so there's a sing-song rhyme to history. Let's look at what history has done to so many other professions. What happened to the stockbroker? They're gone. Now, we still have financial advisors, but those financial advisors basically work for 5 different companies. There's 5 companies that are encapsulating offering financial services to the consumer. I'm sure they'll be like, oh my God, there's 100. Yeah, but there's 5 main ones. Like if I looked at who has the main market share, and then if you want to actually trade stocks, you do that on your own, right? You do that on your own, whether you're doing it through Robinhood if you're young, or you're using like a Charles Schwab type account, because it used to be E-Trade, but Charles Schwab bought E-Trade, or used to be TD Ameritrade, but Charles Schwab bought them. You know, like, yeah, there's a consolidation. Look at banking. Like, we got like most of the country's money is in like 5 banks. It's not in 500 banks, because, and with this new administration coming into power, you're going to see a lot of deregulation, and you're going to see more consolidation. You're going to see more acquisitions and mergers happening. So unfortunately, I do think there will be a squeeze. I always believe there's room for mom and pop. There is room for mom and pop. People like my wife do not want to work with the big players. Right. Every time my daughter and I buy something from Amazon, we almost have to hide the packages anymore, because we know my wife is going to absolutely chastise us. Really? But my wife's, thank God she doesn't tune in anymore. But she's right. My wife's like, you could have bought that directly from that vendor's website. You did not have to give that business to Amazon. I go, but it's so easy.
Yeah, I know, what the hell?
But it's so easy.
Mom and pop can't do same day delivery. When they do, maybe I will.
Yeah, but mom and pop are in your community. Mom and pop are on the PTA with you. Mom and pop coach your kids in soccer or gymnastics or baseball, football, right? Mom and pop are the ones that are going to come back and do a loan with me, or mom and pop are going to visit your bar and buy that Negroni that you make them, right? So there's something to be said about community, and mom and pop tend to get it. Right. You know, we always talk about, oh, do you get it? No, local. I do think local is better. I bleed by local, but I may work local. I may keep my business local, but I may work for a national brand, because that national brand is giving me everything that I couldn't do on my own. I can't afford the programmers and the AI technology that's necessary. I can't produce and manufacture my product at the same cost as someone else. Right? I mean, that's, you start watching TV shows like Shark Tank, and they're trying to raise money from the sharks, these entrepreneurs and these startup companies. And a lot of times it boils down, especially when they have a product. It's like, look, I can't figure out how to manufacture at a high level and at a reasonable cost so I can fulfill all these orders. Usually they have a product that people want. But the issue is, how do I fill 100,000 orders? I'm only equipped to fill 10,000. And if I'm going to do 100,000, how do I have the money to do so, and how can I do so at scale? And usually when the sharks comes in, not only do they have the money, but they have that contact for that factory in India, or that factory in Indonesia. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you got the money and you got the contacts. Your money and your contacts can help me actually fulfill these $100,000 orders. Same thing's going to apply in real estate and mortgage. We're going to have to be aligned with those people who are helping us get to the consumer first. Now, what if we're dead wrong? Like, again, I've said that already once, to say it again. This is just looking out into the future and prognosticating. If we're dead wrong, high five. Because you should, if I'm coaching you, right? Which, by the way, I think we're down to 4. We have 4 spots open for our spring LO launch program. This is small group coaching. It's coached by me. Past graduates have doubled their income. Past graduates have gone on to build out a team. Past graduates have been promoted to producing branch manager. Past graduates have gone from making $20,000 as their best month ever to $42,000 their best month ever. And past graduates have been recognized as being the number 1 lender in the marketplace. And I only offer this in the spring and in the fall. And it's only 10 people per group. And we currently have 4 spots left. If you are interested in business coaching, being coached, being held accountable, being taught the ways, and you want to get trained by a proven sales professional, check us out. Go to our website. It's tloponline.com, TLOPonline.com. All right. So where was I, John?
You were talking about like some shit about you need coaching.
right before you need coaching, right?
You're
right
talking
before
about people like mergers and shit.
Yeah. So
basically, there's no hope.
No, what I said is if I was coaching you.
Oh.
If I was coaching you.
You would tell like, oh, because like if we're wrong, I was coaching you.
I'm still coaching our students that they need to make realtors a big part of their 2025 business plan, their 2026 business plan. Mm-hmm. I am still on that train, right? If it's new,
it's not true.
It's not true. So if it's true,
it's not new.
It's not new. Okay, I'm not looking to rewrite anything. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We know that for the past 2 going on 3 decades, the real estate community has been amazing clients to the mortgage industry.
False. The real estate community has been abusing y'all for decades and treating y'all like shit because they know they control all the power. Now that power has shifted. Kind of right.
Potentially. You said it, not me. All right. So no, I'm still coaching that. But in the back of your head, like that's what's at bat. Mm-hmm. So I coach this, and people who coach with me, they're like, oh my gosh, I've heard Dio say this now 17 times since like December 1st. But when you're running your business, whether it's, again, you're a divisional, you're a company owner, or you're a newly licensed originator, you run a business. Okay. When you're running your business, you have to handle what's at the plate, right? You have to take those swings. You have to foul those pitches back, hit those base hits, swing for the fences occasionally, and hope that most of what you do is base hits up the middle and occasional doubles. Okay. But that doesn't mean you don't have something that's on deck and something that's in the hole. For those that have never played the sport of baseball or hate sports altogether, I apologize. That was a baseball reference. Okay. But what I'm getting at is there's always the task at hand, but the task at hand is not the only thing that should be in our focus. We should have, what are we working on in the near future and what are we going to be working on in the distant future? And we need to dedicate some of our time, not all of our time, but some of our time to each of those 2 tasks or those 2 opportunities.
So who should, like, let's say realtor business dries up by 89%, and then you have to like circumvent that. You have to backfill that with what? Is that like going to trade shows? Is that like speaking at your daughter's school to help like teachers get loans? Is that like what are like 3 tactics? Like, let's say the other side of the coin, DEFCON 12, where like realtors just dry up and there is no real estate industry. Like, what should a loan originator do then?
Can I just answer it with yes?
Yeah.
Take a sip from my coffee mug and find a way to conclude today's episode? No, it's a great question. It truly is a great question.
So basically what you're saying is...
So I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to give probably 5.
Okay.
But it'll be a rapid fire.
Okay.
And before I give those 5, I want to remind everybody, if you are newly licensed or you were newly licensed, my advice, whether it's 2004, 2014, or 2024, has always been, it takes how many years, Sean?
2 at least.
2 years. It takes 2 years to get your business off the ground. So here we are in January of 2025. If I'm telling you that there's smart people who are highly successful that I respect that are laying in bed worried that their originators currently have 70, 80, 90% of their business coming from real estate agents, and their fear is that in just 2 years, that could dry up, I want to remind you that anything that you start doing today with intentionality and being consistent, it'll take how long?
2 years.
2 years. So we need to start understanding this is coming at us, understanding that this is, when I'm doing my SWOT analysis, a threat, and start putting together an action plan so that if it happens, we're not caught off guard, so that we are ahead of the curve and we're not being sucker punched. So here's what I'd be doing. First and foremost, serve your COI. Number one, your circle of influence. That could be friends, family, ex-coworkers, neighbors, and past clients, if you have them. Okay, some people who tune in, they're newly licensed. They don't have that many past clients, right? We have other people like Mark up in Atlanta, who's going to do $100 million this year. By the way, huge TLOP community member. Love me some Mark up in Atlanta. Shout out to Mark. I think he and his wife work for Highland Mortgage out of Atlanta. But it's being the subject matter expert, being the local advisor to those people. But you can only be that if you're reaching out to them consistently. Plain and simple. Now, I can reach out consistently by being very active on my social media, both with how I engage in their content and also how and what I post. Mm-hmm. I can stay in front of them by making sure they're included in any type of a marketing email blast that I may send out, whether it's a quarterly market update, whether it's a letter from the heart. I would coach you to do both, right? Do a quarterly market update plus an annual letter from the heart. Now you're touching these people 6 times, plus you're also showing up in their world from a online networking standpoint, a social selling standpoint. So that would be one way, right? That's probably where I'd start. The second place I'd start, I'd get really good at creating content. Now that content could be webinars. Like right now, the next book I'm going to read, I'm finishing up Renee Rodriguez's book. Finally got around to it. I think Renee gave me the book like 2 years ago, but I'm finally getting around to it. By the way, good book. It is a good book. I've enjoyed my read. But my next one is One to Many. So One to Many was recommended by Amir when he was on the show, and it's basically how people like us can leverage webinars as a way to attract people to our product or our service, capture their information, and then retarget them with either newsletters or advertisements online so they end up becoming a client or a customer of ours. Mm-hmm. So you could be creating content. Content can be webinars. It could be a YouTube channel. But just know it's going to take you 2 years. So whatever you pick, don't try to pick 5 things. Pick 1, maybe 2, and you go with them. And you make a conscious effort to spend time daily, weekly, monthly on this concept, on this strategy. It can't be 80% of your time. It may only be 20% of your time. In fact, like I'm going to be speaking a lot coming up. Shout out to Kate DeKay and Jake Airy and the entire crew over at Eustis Mortgage. I get to fly to New Orleans, and I'm going to be teaching them some of this when I'm speaking at their annual sales conference. I get to fly to Connecticut and do something for our friends over at Total Mortgage. I'm going to be teaching this from the stage. I'm going to be talking about this at the Kentucky Mortgage Bankers Association, the Iowa Mortgage Bankers Association. I'm doing a private event for our friends at Mid-Florida Credit Union, where I'm going to be teaching some of these concepts where we do a deep dive and more of a, you know what to do, but here's how you do it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be doing an event. Shout out to Greenville, South Carolina. You heard it here first. In February, we're going to be doing a TLOP event. We haven't done one of these TLOP events in a while, John. Oh, wow. We're going to be doing a TLOP specific 4-hour half-day event in Greenville, South Carolina in February. So if you're in or around Greenville, go ahead and just like mark your calendars now for sometime in February. I think the dates are actually, I'll be up there 18th, 19th, and 20th. And don't quote me, but I think the event's actually going to be on the 19th. So just stay tuned. More information to come. So anyhow, I will be teaching this, but let me just kind of find a way to get through the next 3 of what you should do at a high level, and know that if you want the deeper dive, you're either going to need to be at one of those events, work for one of those companies, or just become a member of our coaching community and know that you're going to get me coaching you 3 times a month, plus you're going to get my faculty coaching you 5 times a month. So you have 8 live coaching calls for a very affordable investment into your future. So you're creating content. YouTube channel, webinars, and you're sticking to it. You're creating it into habit, but you're following DO's rule. Do you know what DO's rule is?
Mm-mm.
It's the 80-20 rule.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not 80% of income is made by 20% of the people. 80% of crime is made by is created by 20% of the population. No, that's Pareto's principle. DO's principle is 80% of what you focus on should be on the tried and true. 20% of your efforts and energy needs to go towards the new. This is some of the new that we're talking about. So those are the first two things I would do, the COI and the content creation. The next thing that I would look to do is, yes, partner with an organization like First Home IQ and get into the schools, get into the community centers, get into your church and start teaching financial literacy. Be that subject matter expert, be that source of information, and get to those people by serving and then letting them know how you can help them. And then you can do the smaller things like, yes, why can't you look at what worked for realtors and start doing that yourself as a lender, right? Go work the community fest and get a tent. Maybe you invite a realtor with you, kill two birds with one stone. Start working with local employers and be their go-to for all of their employees and start offering employee assistance. In terms of assistance, I'm typically thinking like education and discounts for either mortgage, real estate, or both. And education is like getting in there and offering like exclusive webinars or lunch and learns just for their people. Yes, it's doing more of those things. It's more of working with financial advisors, which we've coached and taught numerous times and will continue to do so. Don't turn your back on the real estate community. Just understand and recognize that there could be a day and a time that realtors make up a minority amount of your referrals instead of a majority amount of your referrals.
There it is, Dustin.
And there it is, John.
Passionate.
Yeah, thank you for letting me get all that out. And thanks to Nick Gallagher for the inspiration. I don't think Nick knew he was going to be inspiration.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. Look, you have a conversation with DO or you talk to JC about something, please know at any moment it could be turned into content.
That could be an awesome content idea for Nick at night and give his mortgage tips.
Oh.
And it would speak to like the people now that have money, because that's what's happening. All the people that were like young kids in the 90s, now we have all the buying power. That's why we go buy out and buy like action figures and shit from the 90s to make us feel whole again. So Nick could do this whole thing, Nick at night, for 5 minutes every night. Remember with the Bewitched and all those other black and white TV shows?
Yes. Yeah. My favorite go-to was
Gilligan's Island.
No, I like the Patty. Is it Patty Duke? Yeah, the Patty Duke show
On Nick at Night?
Yeah. Now it's like Friends reruns on Nick at Night. Right?
Isn't that
that's crazy?
Disgusting.
Yeah. Anyhow,
right.
Hey y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. Do this for us. Hey, we just gave you a ton of free content. If you like free, because John, what do you say?
If it's free, it's for me.
Cool. Do this. Go to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already and subscribe, because on that channel there is a plethora of additional content, not just recordings of shows like this. Go to our website, tloponline.com. Sure, we'd love for you to become a member of our coaching community. And for those that are serious about growth, we invite you to check out what we're doing through our LO Launch specific intimate coaching program that is limited and select. But you can also sign up for our newsletter because that is free. Memberships cost money and intimate coaching costs money. It's an investment into your future success, but the newsletter, it's free. So you can go to tloponline.com and you can at a minimum sign up for the newsletter and get free tips and market updates emailed to you weekly by yours truly. On top of that, make sure you're sharing our content, not once, not twice, but 3 different times with friends, colleagues, or coworkers. And if you need something, the number one way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn. First name Dustin, last name Owen. You'd be shocked at how accessible I make myself. And our favorite social media for you to follow is our Instagram. It's at the Loan Officer Podcast. I'm Dustin Owen. He's John Coleman. That's all the time we have for you today. Thank you to our sponsor, Mortgage Con. We look forward to catching you on the next episode. Peace. That was long, huh? 50?